Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk with Tamra. On today's show, I have Laurell Hall here. Is Laurell Hall?
Yes.
She's the mother of Cleashindra Hall. She's been missing from Pine Bluff since 1994. Did I pronounce her name right?
Cleashindra.
Cleashindra. Cleashindra Hall.
We call it Clea for short.
And Clea for short. Thanks for traveling here to be on my show.
Thank you for having me.
How have you been?
I've been good.
Mm-hmm.
I am blessed to be here because with the situation that's been going on with Clea for 20 years, I could be somewhere totally different.
Mm-hmm. You know, when I first saw that show on TV One, and they did the episode with Clea, it was like, oh my goodness, are they? Well, I don't want to say anything about the police department. I guess they did what they knew to do during that time, you know. But sometimes, just looking from the outside, it can be so obvious to certain people that they should have looked more into certain places or whatever.
You know, even back then, we had shows like Unsolved Mysteries, and when this happened, and I would tell the police something, or I'm thinking something, or I'm reading up on probable cause because I'm trying to do the investigation with them. And when I would tell them something, their response is usually, it doesn't happen like you see on TV. So what we see on TV apparently doesn't occur that way.
Okay. So it's been 20 years. And she's been missing from Pine Bluff, Arkansas for 20 years. How has that been for you, not knowing?
It's been difficult for me because the day that she disappeared, I dropped her off at work. And so I watched her walk into her after-school job, and that was the last time that I saw her. And so for me and for my family, that's where we're stuck. We're stuck in 1994 with her going to her job.
What type of young lady was Clea, you know, as you remember her in 1994?
Clea was a typical teenage girl, liked to talk on the phone, kind of nerdy because she would read books, always playing with somebody's kids, always babysitting somebody's kids, and her plan when she finished school was to be a pediatrician. So she was going to take that kid thing through life.
Tell me about the last time that you saw her.
The last day that I saw her on Monday, May 9th, Clea was a senior, so she got out of school early that day, and I went to pick her up from school, and she was going to go to work early because she was trying to make more money so that she could go save money for college, and she was planning on doing an internship in Boston toward her pediatric profession during the summer. And so when I picked her up, I took her to her job, which was just 4 or 5 blocks from our house, and there was nobody home. And she came home, laid down on the couch, took a nap. And a little before 5, her boss's wife called and said she was at home. And Clea just got up off the couch, had her wiped the sleep out of her eye, and just got in the car, and I dropped her off. When we pulled up at the residence, which was a home office, she got out of the car, and I watched her walk in, and that was the last time that I saw her.
How did she end up working for that employer?
One of her friends in school was working for him, she and her sister, and they decided that they were going to quit, and she was trying to help find a replacement, and she asked Clea if she was interested in working. And so when she asked Clea about it and Clea asked us, we let her work because it was close to home. with the stipulation that it wasn't going to interfere with her schoolwork or church work.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. And so her employer has been the last person to see her.
As far as we know, he's the last person to see her, because in the 20 years we hadn't had another person or anything, person, dog, anything come up and say that, you know, they've seen her whereabouts. And, you know, in the 20 years, you know, we've asked neighbors near him, you know, if they saw a car pick her up, and there's nobody that has come forward and said they saw a car pick her up, saw her walking or anything.
Explain to me what the employer said as it relates to the last time he saw her.
Well, he has given a couple of statements. He has said that one statement, he didn't know when she left, but he heard the door close and the garage go down. And then there's another statement that he said that she looked out the window and left with a peach pop in her hand. And then, you know, after that it's been basically not much conversation.
Has he even cooperated with the police?
He went and did a statement, like she disappeared on Monday, so on Saturday he went to the police station and gave his statement after he returned from out of state. And after then it's been, you know, if they want to talk to him, they need to see his attorney.
So he lawyered up, of course. Do you feel that he knows more about, you know, her leaving, or according to him, she left?
I don't know. All I know is that by his own admission, she was the last person that we know of to see her. And in the 20 years, like I said, we haven't had anybody else that has come forward to say that they saw her. And, you know, he has not taken a polygraph or anything like that. And so I kind of feel like he hasn't done enough to eliminate himself as a person of interest, which is the new term.
Do you feel that the police, that the Pine Bluff Police Department, because that's who was handling the missing persons case, am I right, Pine Bluff, that the Pine Bluff, Arkansas Police Department has done all that they could do?
In the later years, they may have done all that they can do, but in the beginning, I don't think so, because when she disappeared in 1994, they had some missing persons reports, and usually those people would show up the next day or something, or in a couple of days, but they had not had a case such as this where somebody disappeared and there wasn't any nothing to account for the disappearance, because she didn't have a car during that time. We didn't have cell phones. She left home, didn't have money, purse, clothing, anything. And so, but they still wanted to think of her as being a runaway. But we kept saying, you know, usually when somebody runs away, they have a plan, and they take money, they take ID, you know, clothing, because they're not planning on coming back. But she was 2 weeks from graduating high school, where she could have been doing whatever she wanted to do, and so there was no reason for her to run away. And it wasn't until they went to the school and talked to the school, and the school said that she wasn't a troublemaker, she didn't get in trouble at school, she was a good student, honor student, and so that's when they thought something was a little bit suspicious. But even at that time, they didn't check her locker while they were at the school. They didn't check her locker to see if there were any clues as to why she may not be accounted for. And so, as you know, as time passed, you know, I don't know what they can't backtrack, but you know, there's if there were evidence to be found, it could be hidden, destroyed in 20 years.
You stated that the police wanted to look at her as a runaway in the beginning, and the employer said that he gave two stories. He said she left and he didn't see her leave, and then he said that she left and she had an orange pop or something in her hand.
Pink pop.
Do you think that they kind of wanted to take what he said in the beginning as face value? In the beginning,
I think so, and it's I hate to say for the police, it's easier to say that somebody ran away because runaway cases they don't do a lot of investigating on, and they wanted to say to me that she's 18 so she can come and go as she please. They did say that she can come and go as she please, and I'm like, well, at 18 though, she's still my baby because she's not she's driving, but she doesn't have a car,
right?
You know, and
and it was dark out.
Well, actually, it was summer, almost summer, so it hadn't quite got dark. And believe you me, I have walked that area a lot between at 8:30 at night to see, is it dark? You know, can somebody see her? You know, could they see a car if a car picked her up? And even with him, the strange thing is that he is really observant about what goes on around his house, and the fact that he didn't know when she left, and he even said that it wasn't like her not to tell anybody that she was leaving because that wasn't like her.
So has he been helpful to you all at all? Like been open, apologetic?
No. He said he didn't have any more responsibility to her than he would any employee. And through the years, we really have not had any conversation. Actually, we hadn't had any conversation with him since the first week that she disappeared.
And why do you think that?
I don't know if it's because he thinks that or feels that we think he's guilty. I just think that he hasn't done enough to eliminate himself. If he had done enough to eliminate himself, then they could move forward and look at somebody else. But some of his behaviors have been strange, like taking down our flyers and taking down our bows, and I can't understand that.
And that was another thing that concerned me also when I heard about that. You know, when she first went missing, you all were putting flyers up as any family would, and her employer, someone that she had a working relationship with, who you would think would be helping the family, you know, to try and find this missing young lady, he was taking the flyers down.
You know, initially we thought that because we would put the flyers on the telephone poles, and so we thought that maybe the light company was coming through, you know, and taking them down because maybe they would consider it be littering. But one of my daughter's friends was going down the road where she worked, and we had just like hung a bow up that day on the pole across from his house, and her friend had called us and said he was taking the bow down, and then and we of course got in the car because we wanted to go see it, and of course the bow was missing. And so other people like have come to me, and I know one lady told me that he had paid her son and some of his friends to take down some flyers. And I don't understand why, other than the fact that maybe if her picture is out of sight, then maybe nobody will accuse him of something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop you right there. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Real Talk with Tamra. I've been talking with Laurell Hall. She's the mother of Cleashindra Hall. Did I say it right that time? She's been missing from Pine Bluff, Arkansas since 1994. That was 20 years ago. How has it been for your family since Cleashindra has been missing?
There has been a lot of different things that have occurred over the last 20 years. My mom has passed away, my mother-in-law, her great-grandmother. My husband has had major heart surgery, and I don't know if just the stress of that has caused that to occur, or maybe you had a heart condition and that's caused it to get worse. But you know, and then I have 4 grandchildren, and they all have a portion of her name except my grandson. They have a portion of her name, and they only know her by what we have told them about her. And for me, that is sad, because they miss a portion of her. They've missed a portion of her life, and she has missed all of their lives. And you know, and I know that they would get a kick out of each other, because she likes kids, and even in some of their mannerisms, I can see her behavior in them. And I have one. Her name is Laurell Cleashindra, and so some of her mannerisms are really like her. And she doesn't know her, but when she was little, she's 9, but when she was smaller, 2 and 3, and she would say, you know, point at the picture, oh, that's my Aunt Clea, that's my Auntie Clea, you know. So, and they, like, if you go to her website or go to our Facebook page, you'll see them on there, like, when we do birthdays, they're blowing out the candles, you know, for her, or, you know, and they're, you know, happy to release balloons, and hoping along with us that somebody's going to come forward with some information.
And that's another question that I was getting ready to ask you. In the years that she's been missing, have you had anyone to come to offer clues to what may have happened to Clea off the record?
We haven't had anybody to come forward, and that is what's been the strange thing about it, because, like I said, she didn't have a car, money, ID, so even if she left with someone, you know, surely by now they would have told somebody else something, or a friend or somebody would have recognized her and said, you know, I think I've seen that girl. And you know, back in March, when we released balloons for her birthday, I went on Facebook, because in the 20 years that we have been releasing balloons, nobody had ever called and said, I found a balloon. And then this year, when I went on Facebook in March for her birthday, somebody sent a picture of one of the balloons with one of the cards that we have attached, and said they finally found one in Florida.
Oh my goodness.
It had traveled all night and arrived in Florida, and the lady said, I found one in my yard today, and that was the first time that we had gotten one. And I know that there's someone else out there, surely, that had, all of them just hadn't floated off into the ocean, and nobody has seen any of them, but nobody has come forward. And even in our town, although the population in our town at that time was like 50-something thousand, and so it's not small, but it's still small enough that everybody knows everybody, or knows somebody that you know. And we haven't had anybody to come forward and tell us anything. You know, because I've, like, send me a message on Facebook, or, you know, call me. You know, I don't need to know your name. I just need to know the information.
Because normally there's chatter or rumors or something.
And that's why we were thinking that it couldn't have been just that she left with one of her friends, because back then she was a teenager, and so you know how teenagers talk, you know, to each other, and, you know, to their friends, and you know, usually information gets out. But I mean, we have not had one clue.
Has anyone, neighbors, reported any strange activity that was going on around her employer's home at that time, like shortly after Cleashindra went missing? Nobody
has come forward and said that they saw anything or noticed anything unusual. Now, myself, I noticed that before she disappeared, and I'm not accusing him, but before he disappeared, my daughter's boss parked his car on the outside of the garage, and his wife parked her car on the inside. But after Clea disappeared, he parked his car on the inside, and I thought that was strange. In addition to some renovations he had done on his house, and he moved out of the house. And most people, when you have renovations done, you just move to another room, let them work on that room, then you move to. But they moved out of the house
because they had complete renovations of the whole house.
Well, I think he, when we did the search in 2012, he told somebody that he had 8 types of renovations done in the last 18 years.
And that's another thing I saw where 18 years later, the police decided to do a search of that home. Why 18 years later?
They did a search 18 years later because, for one, he didn't willingly volunteer. And I guess in the 18 years they finally got enough evidence or statements by somebody to get enough probable cause to get a search warrant.
Mm-hmm.
Although it didn't produce anything.
I was getting ready to say, I mean, after 18 years, that's enough time to pretty much to do anything. I mean,
to destroy any evidence.
To destroy anything. You're absolutely right.
It is, because, you know, when the police told me they went over and searched, because I've always wanted to go over there and see, you know, where she worked, because we just dropped her off. We never did see the inside of where she worked, and even after she disappeared, and we would ask, can we come in and see the office where she worked, but he would always be too busy for us to come in and see it. And you know, so trying to them doing a search after all this time, I wanted to go in, because when the Monday that Clea disappeared, the weekend before had been prom, and it had been like she had gone to this Arcanet ball. And so she had glued, back then they didn't have these nails now, you know, she had these press-on nails, and so they were two-toned, and I had also put some hair on the back of her hair. And so I told them, you know, when they went over looking, like, what are you looking for? Because, you know, if I had gone, I would have been looking to see, are there, you know, any loose nails laying around, you know, those two-tone nails, or any hair, because his wife's hair was short. So is there any long hairs, you know, around? But, of course, whenever I would say something, what I had to say was related to the rantings of a mother. And that's what they attributed to. Not that they were taking into account, you know, what I said could have been probable. It's just, this is just a mother ranting. But no more so than they would be if it had been one of their children. Although I've always thought that had it been one of their children, we would not be sitting here 20 years talking about Clea missing.
And that's one of the reasons why I do shows like this, because I feel like, and I do shows for all missing, like of all races, but I think that it's unfortunate, and this is just a fact, that when a female black or a female white goes missing, they don't get the coverage in main media as they should get. You know, I think that's a shame. I think that it definitely should be changed, and I'm sitting here bold enough to say that they don't get the coverage in the media as a female white or female black. I mean, or male white. I'm sorry. I was looking at another show on mainstream TV, and John Walsh himself said it. You know, he said that the black kids, the African American kids, don't get the coverage in main media as they should, and that's absolutely true. And we hope that can definitely be changed.
Part of that, I think, in my experience, is because most of the time it starts with the local law enforcement, and they're the ones that usually will make contact, or they put out the bulletins about somebody's missing. And in our case, when she disappeared, because she was initially thought of as a runaway, then of course they didn't want to make a big media circus out of it. And like America's Most Wanted initially had contacted the police, and initially, yeah, this is true, they did not cooperate. And it just so happened that when I joined an organization called Team Hope, I met John and his wife, and so they because they didn't have all the information that they needed, they kind of talked about her, showed a picture and kind of said she was missing, but they really could not do a story because they didn't have all the information.
Because the police wouldn't cooperate with them.
Well, I don't know if they didn't want to bring light to maybe how they initially investigated the case. And I think, maybe over the years they have gotten better in trying to do things. But, in any case, it's the initial investigation that can make or break a case.
Because when I saw that they did the search 18 years later, I feel like they definitely had like a come to Jesus moment. Like they knew that there was something there that they should have mainly checked out 18 years ago, and they was hoping that, that there would be something.
Well, they didn't come up with anything, and from what I understand, they had somebody come up and or somebody gave them a statement, or two somebodies gave them a statement, and they thought that it was enough evidence to secure a search warrant. Although I didn't feel that they would find anything. 18 years later, I didn't feel that they would find anything, and even I don't think that they believed it, because we were there the whole day watching them search, and when we got out, when they finally came out, like after 6 or 8 hours, they came out with some bags, and our evidence was so important that it went home in somebody's trunk. And and so in my urgency on trying to get still pressure the police, I went to the city council meeting and pleaded with them, because they're the boss of the police department, to put some pressure on them. And so after the meeting was over, I was talking to the chief, what about my evidence? And she said, oh, we send it to, we check every week, and they don't have anything to report, And so one of the reporters, just as follow-up, he decided, the next morning to call the crime lab, just to see, where they were on the evidence. And they had not even gotten it. It went to the crime lab 40 days later.
Oh, my goodness. So where was it?
It started out in the trunk of a car, and then it went just in the evidence room.
Just sitting there, tagged in the evidence
I don't even know if it was tagged. I really don't, because they did an investigation into it, and did some reassessments, and I think one of the...
Was this the sheriff's department or the police
department?
Okay, because I was scared. Well, it wasn't during election time, was it? Because
oh, absolutely not during election time.
Okay, because often, I was going to say, sometimes, I'm not saying that it was Arkansas or Tennessee or anything like that, but sometimes in some states, when it's election time, they'll start doing stuff to make it seem like they're doing something.
Well, our chief is appointed. They don't, the police chief, they're appointed, so they don't have to run for office. The sheriff has to run for office, but the way our town is outlined, we live in the city, so then we're under the jurisdiction of the police department.
Okay. Oh, you mentioned that Clea's employer had a wife. Has she been cooperative?
His wife is, I want to say, maybe she's shy, or but she doesn't speak unless he says so. I want to say she has. I think initially she had given the police a brief statement, and but like him, she too has lawyered up.
Okay. Have you all did any searches? Has there been any searches done?
We have searched when the Clea disappeared on Monday, and so back then we were just getting into that not having to wait 24 hours to report, but we had to wait 24 hours. And so when we made the report on Tuesday, some of my church members came over that evening and decided that they wanted to go and search the woods in front of his house, because we live in our area is not it's semi-rural. I'm going to say there's a lot of wooded area near where we live, and so they started searching that. And then we had other searches, and even I went out in the woods, and I'm scary as far as woods, but I have been in the woods looking for my child.
Mm-hmm. And it produced nothing.
It produced absolutely nothing.
What do you think, what do you feel needs to happen in order for this missing persons case to be solved?
For me, I just think we need to start from scratch. Mm-hmm. You know, on television, the last person to see a person would be the initial person of interest, the last person to see someone. And even at the beginning, the police told me that because she had reason to be at his house, then that wasn't a probable cause. And it didn't make sense to me because of, you know, none of the television shows that I had seen before. You know, it doesn't really matter if somebody disappears and you're saying you're the last person to see them, then you're the initial person of interest. Mm-hmm. Or that's where the investigation should start. Mm-hmm. And in our case, it didn't start like that. And so I don't know if in 20 years we can, you know, we can go back and start from the beginning, because, you know, evidence is gone probably, if there was any evidence. I don't know if people have passed away that was over in that area, you know, that could have said they saw something, because they didn't see anything then, and maybe if they saw something, maybe they'd be willing to come forward at this time. I don't know. But, you know, whenever we have gone on searches, or like we go down there sometimes and release balloons, we'll go down and stand on the corner, and, you know, some of the neighbors that live over there would come out and say, you know, like, anytime you want to come down here and stand on, you know, on the corner, but come on, and, you know, I wish, you know, I could help you, or I wish I knew, you know, I wish I knew something, because, you know, they need to find out what happened to her. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know what they could do exactly, you know, at this point to start all over. Now, if her boss would take that elusive polygraph that he hasn't taken in all this time, mm-hmm. you know, that would make me feel better, because mm-hmm. I still feel he has not done enough to eliminate himself as a suspect. And if someone came up missing from my house, oh my God, I would be more upset than the family. Mm-hmm. And I would do whatever it took. I'd probably be out there looking when they were at home asleep, because I would be trying to figure out what happened to their child. And I just can't believe that he hasn't done or wouldn't be willing to do whatever
and he never participated in any searches.
He's never gone on any searches with us. And he's never gone in searches, wouldn't take the polygraph, you know, taking down flyers, taking down our bows. And I don't understand. And like I said, I've not had a conversation, and I've asked. Even a lady came and wanted us to see a psychic. Mm-hmm. I believe people have gifts, mm-hmm. but I have issue when their gift is for money. But mm-hmm. Because this lady begged us to go, mm-hmm. and I had seen this lady on television before, helping people find missing people, I went to see her, and we had gone a couple of times, and I guess because she felt like she wasn't getting anywhere with us, she came to Pine Bluff one day, and one Sunday, and we were at my house, and she was standing in the door, I guess, you know, trying to see if she can get a feel for direction or whatever it is they do. And he passed by my house, and so I waited a little while, and then I called and asked if we could come over and see the office where she worked. And his response to me was that he had a meeting that he had to go to. And anyway, he didn't want to fool with any psychics. And I'm thinking, well, I didn't say psychic, but what happened when he passed, he saw that her license plate had ESP1 on the license plate. And so I guess he just assumed, and I wouldn't have even assumed that she was a psychic because she had ESP1 on her license plate. But, you know, that was his response. And he didn't let us come and see the office, and so we've never gone to see the office. And that's what I mean about him not doing enough to eliminate himself so that the police can move on and see if there's somebody else. And it's possible that it's just somebody, a random stranger, possibly. But how can they look toward the random stranger when there's circumstantial issues with the last person to see her?
And he has not even had the common courtesy to just allow his employees' parents to come into his home to see the last place that she was.
No.
There has not been any rumors or anything to support that her employer was, you know, he didn't have any criminal history or anything like that, did he?
He didn't have any that we were aware of. But you know how when something happens, you know, then people, you know, want to kind of tell things that they think that they know. But there wasn't anything that could be substantiated with evidence. And when we let her go to work for him, my husband had asked a few people about him, and you know, they really didn't have a whole lot to say about him. And the only reason that we let her work is because it was close to home, you know. And during that time, or I guess all of their lives, we were overprotective because we didn't want anything to happen to them. And then, you know, even as they were growing up, you know, they had the Atlanta killings and disappearances, and so we were really protective. Her friends probably thought we were strict and mean, but we were overprotective. And I mean, we tried to monitor their every move, and we actually, whenever they went somewhere, if it was possible, we went.
I'm protective of my kids too. I'm very protective of them because, and that's not being mean. That's just, you know, what happens. You know, as parents, we know that there are people out there, and sometimes with our children, if they haven't experienced life the way that we've experienced it, they have a tendency to be more, what's the word that I'm looking for? They have a word to be more they have a tendency to be more trusting, you know what I mean? And we want to be there to protect them. So that's definitely not being mean. My mom and my grandma was very protective of me. And as a result, my kids say all the time, Mama, we don't get to do this, we don't get to do that. Oh my God, you're so paranoid. But my grandmother had saved me from a lot of stuff just because she instilled in me, you don't do this, you don't do that, and I was able to recognize dangerous situations.
And that was basically it, because you know, I'm in my 50s, and so that's how I was raised, and so we kind of raised them like that. And even my mom was strict when I was growing up, and so in the era that my children were young, the Cosbys came on, and so we kind of patterned our life kind of after the Cosbys. You know, if they got in trouble, we had a family meeting and, you know, discussed what the punishment was going to be.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna stop you right there because we got to take a break. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Welcome back to Real Talk with Tamra. I've been talking with Laurell Hall. She's the mother of Cleashindra Hall. Cleashindra has been missing from Pine Bluff, Arkansas since 1994, and we've been sitting here talking about the circumstances surrounding her disappearance. Ms. Hall, do you feel that your daughter is still alive?
I'm going to feel that until I have something that proves to me to the contrary. In my mind, she's still alive. In my heart, she's still alive. And so until somebody can show me proof otherwise, that's what I'm going to believe.
what has the police expressed to you about that, her well-being?
They haven't really just said, but I feel in some of the conversations that we've had that they don't think she's alive.
Okay. So you're in the process of writing a book.
I am. I have been thinking about a lot of things. I've experienced a lot of things in the last 20 years, and so I've decided, and of course with some encouragement with some friends, I've decided that I'm going to put down some of the experience that I've had, because really a parent of a missing child only understands what a parent of a missing child goes through. But not only just that, in the 20 years that we have experienced this, God has kept me. He has kept my mind. And somebody needs to hear that, because there's things of lesser that have shaken people, to their core. And I think that if you don't have faith and don't have a relationship with God, then you won't be able to stand. And I want to be able to tell people about that, because somebody needs to know that when things in life happen, and they happen for a reason, we don't always know what it is, but there's something that they can fall back on, and there's somebody that can give them comfort during that time. And that is why I want to tell my story, because sometimes when I see people and they're like, "Oh my God, you should," I can't believe that you're not falling all out and crying, and you must know something. And the only thing that I know is that God has kept me. And if I stop looking for my child, who's going to look for her? And I'm just like anybody else. I'm just a phone call away from being psychotic or homicidal. And so if it was not for the grace and the presence of God, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah. So in that book you said that you're going to, it's mainly to, it's therapeutic for you, and mainly to help those persons who may be going through the same thing that you're going through.
It is, because even when I think about some of the things that I've done, or some of the places that I've gone, I can't even believe it myself. For example, I went on one of the searches, and like I said, I'm scared of the woods, and I went out in the woods with a gun. And I was walking with a sheriff's deputy, and we were walking through the woods, and we saw a dead snake. And I'm trying to get my gun out. He's like, "Okay, Miss Hall, you got it's dead already." I'm like, "Okay, I'm kind of like Barney Fife now, But I'm out here in the woods trying to see if I'm trying to find my daughter. Even I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm out here looking.
So every year you all have is it a memorial or a
remembrance?
Remembrance, okay.
We do a remembrance because we want to, not that we're trying to remember her as if she's dead and we're trying to memorialize her. We're doing a remembrance, and we do it to make people aware that she is missing, and we're still looking, and we know that there's somebody out there that knows what happened to her. And at some point, and we've been praying over the last 20 years that somebody, that God would touch somebody's heart, and they would come forward and say, I know something. Because sometimes people, the littlest things, they might not think is important. And it is. It could be just that key that we need to solve the case. Even in our daughter's case, when she disappeared, we tried to get, we called the Office of Emergency Management, trying to see, are there search dogs? Well, we were told that they only had prison dogs, and the prison dogs were trained to chew up the prisoners. And so I kept saying, so there's nobody controlling the dogs, but that's just how naive they assume, that we were. And so we actually had a dog brought in from Oregon that was an actual search and rescue dog. and he could only search so far. And another thing, you know, of course, my daughter's boss wouldn't let him, the dog, search that property.
Mm-hmm. Okay. He wouldn't let the dog search that property?
Nope.
Is there a reason why?
I don't know if it just goes along with whatever his other reasons are for doing or not doing what he's been doing, but I just hold on to the faith that God is in control of the situation, and you know, there's an accountability that everybody has to have, and one day, if it's not him, whoever it is, there's going to be an accountability, and I still believe that somebody's going to come forward with some information. God is in control of the situation. In His own time, He's going to let this whole thing be revealed. And I just pray that He's merciful and that I'm still here on this earth when it happens. I don't know what could be done. And so we just have to be patient. Now that's difficult. The one thing that I've learned over the 20 years is patience. I know patience is a virtue, and I have become a virtuous woman.
Yeah, because you're a lot calmer than I
am. There's some days I'm not calm.
Because I'm sitting here looking at you, and you got so much peace. And when I think about what I've read about this case and then talking to you, it angers me. Because I just feel like they have not, first of all, they didn't do what they should have done in the beginning. And because they made so many mistakes in the beginning, they would rather just, oftentimes police departments are afraid of lawsuits anyway, so sometimes they just kind of brush stuff under the rug. They may know some things where, yeah, we should have looked here, we should have did this, but they'll just brush it up under the rug. So I commend you for your diligence. Okay. You're doing the right thing to continue.
Yeah. Well, you know, they have admitted on occasion that they should have probably done some things in the whole 20 years differently. But you can't go back and redo those things. You know, all we ask is that they go forward now. You know, what happens today? What happens from today? You know, what are you going to do from today toward trying to help us find Clea?
They're not doing anything. You know, that's how it seems. Okay, I'm going to stop you right there because we got to take a break so I can calm down a little bit. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Real Talk with Tamra. I've been speaking with Laurell Hall. She came here from Pine Bluff, Arkansas to speak about her daughter, Cleashindra Hall, who's been missing from Pine Bluff, Arkansas since 1994. How old would she be now?
She would be 38 years old. And because we're stuck at 18, I have to like think about it for a minute. Like, you know, how long has that been? So she's been missing as long as we knew her, 18 years, or actually longer than we knew her.
I just want to ask you one more thing, because I actually, you know, I really appreciate our police officers. I think the majority of them, you know, half of them do what they can do. They do the best that they can do. But do you think that that your daughter's case, do you think that they're working it at this point?
When somebody comes forward with a lead or a tip, then they're probably working it. Or if I don't call them or actually email them in a couple of weeks, there's probably nothing being done. Because when a case is cold like ours, it kind of sits on the shelf, and the term is active. I mean, it's not closed, but they're not actively working on it.
Okay, it's open, but not active. You're right. In closing, what would you like to say?
Probably that I know that there's somebody out there that has some information. And it's been 20 years. 20 years has been long enough for us to suffer and beg for somebody to come forward with some information. And I'm just asking whoever knows something if you would call the Pine Bluff Police Department, or we're on Facebook at Help Find Cleashindra Hall, and leave us a tip.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you for traveling here today.
Thank you for having me.
You have such a peaceful spirit. So you can tell that God is with you because you have a peaceful spirit, and that only comes from God.
Yes.
I want to thank you all for tuning in to Real Talk with Tamra. These missing persons cases are very heartfelt to me. I love to provide families with a platform to come onto my show to talk about their missing loved ones. As I said, I don't feel that they get enough media attention in main media. I hope that not in the future, but starting now, that all missing persons cases can start being treated the same. We want to give all races the same coverage because we're all equal in my eyes. That's the reason why I give all families of all races a chance to come onto this show. Once again, I want to thank you for tuning in to Real Talk with Tamra. Until next time, God bless us all.